Mike, I also noticed the eye line is different. Is there a special tool that allows me to view this from wheelchair height?
Yeah, there is. I mean, right now, I've been kind of changing the eye line because I'm just orbiting around and navigating through the model. I'm just using basically SketchUp's basic navigation tools, which are built into a 3-button scroll wheel mouse. So I haven't even really been clicking on any of the navigation tools, but the one I've been using the most is the orbit tool. The orbit tool is one that just kind of allows you to orbit around in the model, and you can see the eye height just kind of keeps constantly changing because I'm really more orbiting the model than I am kind of walking through the space.
Okay.
With the different tools that you're sometimes in SketchUp, whether it's the tape measure tool or the eraser tool or whatever, if you want to orbit the model, all you really have to do is press and hold down on the middle mouse wheel, and then that'll take you right into the orbit tool. If you scroll the wheel forward, you can zoom in, and if you scroll the wheel backwards, you can zoom out. So that's what I've mostly been doing. But yeah, if you wanted to get the model set up so that you were looking from a specific eye height, sort of the point of view of the occupant, we could actually come over and grab the walk tool. And from here, we could type in an eye height of maybe 42 inches. Is that right? I'm not sure exactly where we...
I would almost say 48,
48? Okay.
42, 48, I think.
Somewhere in between that range. And then with that particular tool, this is more of just a left button tool. So if I press and hold down on the left mouse button now, we can kind of glide through this kitchen at an eye height of 48 inches. So we can kind of see what that approach would be like. Maybe if we were wanting to sort of approach up to the kitchen sink or something like that. And now, if we're in the walk tool, and you press down on the center wheel on your mouse, that's actually going to take you into the look around tool as opposed to the orbit tool. So this keeps the eye height at 48 inches, but still allows you to look up or look to the left or look to the right or look down from that sort of same specific eye height. So if you're in the walk tool and you press and hold down on the center wheel, you're not going to orbit, you're just going to end up looking around in the model.
I love that feature. You're not often in a wheelchair to actually view what the homeowner might be seeing.
Right.
So it brings you to a whole new design perspective, being in their shoes.
Yeah, I like that too. I hadn't thought about that either, that the tool is called the walk tool. It's kind of not a very universal design access name for a tool. But it is what it is, I suppose.
Well, looking at that faucet, I think it would be great if we could change it out to one of the new touch faucets.
Okay.
I was wondering if you had the ability to do that.
Yeah, actually, you're talking about those faucets that just you can turn on and off just by touching them?
Correct.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Let me see. Go back to the warehouse. Let's just do a search here for touch kitchen faucet. Yeah, this brings up a few actually. So I'm just going to go ahead and download this model off the 3D warehouse. I got to this page, by the way, Linda, just by clicking on the Get Models button here in SketchUp. That's a quick link in SketchUp that takes you right to the 3D warehouse, where you can just search for a model. If I just hit the back button, it'll take me right back to where I had searched previously. And here, if I just click on the Download Model link, SketchUp is going to ask me, first of all, whether it wants to load that model into the current project. And if I click OK, it'll download the model directly from the 3D warehouse. Then all I have to do is just click to set it down on the countertop. Now I'll take the eraser tool and erase the faucet that's in there, and then take the move tool. If I hover over the faucet in order to move it, one of the first things you see is that big blue bounding box around the faucet with these little red tick marks. And with the move tool, if you hover over one of those little red tick marks, it turns the move tool into the rotate tool. And that'll allow us to first rotate the faucet around 90 degrees to get it to the right orientation. And then if I specifically want to align the faucet up to sort of the middle of the sink, I'll want to come down and grab it from the middle end point at the base of the faucet and then move it over to where we can get it lined up to the middle of the cutout for the sink.
Wonderful. One thing I would like to add is if your mobility is limited, you can mount the faucet on the side of the sink rather than in the back. But since this is a touch faucet and it comes out farther, that might take care of any issues.
Okay. Yeah, if you had wanted to get it mounted on the side, it would basically be the same thing at that point. You could move it back around again using the move tool. You could rotate the faucet around again and then still just sort of slide it over. It doesn't have to be the kind of thing where you get it lined up to the midpoint on the side of the kitchen if you wanted to just slide it back to where it was a specific distance from the front of the countertop or something along those lines. But is that kind of what you were hinting at?
Right, depending on mobility of the person and their range.
Right. So I'll just undo back. I mean, should we keep it on the side or should we just, I guess we could just undo back and get it back to where it was there on the back of the sink.
Probably for a double bowl would probably be better in the back.
Gotcha. Cool.
One last thing I'd like to touch upon is the 12-inch deep wall cabinets on the back of the peninsula.
Okay. Let me see if I can get over there. Just swing around to the back here. You're talking about these guys back here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The two wall, they're 24 inches high.
Okay.
Just mounted on a 9-inch high platform. I think it's a great way because you have safety issues behind the cooktop. So this adds additional countertop. So it's no longer a safety hazard.
Okay.
But also something that gets overlooked is the depth of the cabinet itself. With it only being 12 inches deep, there's no need for rollout trays or accessories that will bring items that are in the cabinet out towards you. So this is a cost-saving feature. With it only being 12 inches deep, you should have easy access to what's inside the cabinet.
Gotcha. So instead of using a traditional base cabinet, which is more like 24 inches deep or whatever, where you have to put in kind of some kind of specialty rollout tray like we were looking at before, you can put a wall cabinet here on top of just a 9-inch platform down below, and that'll still give you the same height.
Yes, it will. The overall height of 32.5 inches is still achieved with the toe kick and the wall cabinet.
Got it. So are the wall cabinet, you said this was a 24-inch wall cabinet, but
in the industry we just say 24 inches, but the actual box height is 23.5.
okay, so when you put that, I got it. So when you put a 23.5-inch cabinet on top of a 9-inch kick, you're still getting that same overall under counter height of 32.5 inches. Oh, that's cool how that works out.
Correct, which matches the base cabinet height.
Nice. That's pretty clever. I like that.
It is. A lot of different solutions in this kitchen.
Yeah, it's pretty well packed. So anything else we should be taking a look at here while we're fortunate enough to have you on the phone with us today?
You know, Mike, now that I'm looking at the kitchen from this vantage point, I noticed that possibly the wall cabinets could be lowered. And I was wondering if we could zoom in on that to see if they are.
You're talking about the guys over here by the kitchen sink?
Yeah, on either side of the faucet.
Okay. You want to look at the height of those?
Normally, standard height is 18 inches, but we like to sneak them a little bit down to, say, roughly 15 inches.
These are at 14. Is that going to work out all right for you? 14
is fine. I think it'll depend on your customer and and their range of motion.
Okay.
But anytime you can sneak the wall cabinetry down a few inches to accommodate their needs is wonderful.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're saying typically these are at about 18 inches. Here we've got them in at 14, which makes them easier to get to and easier to reach into.
Yes.
Perfect. And two, just as a note, something worth mentioning here, just going back again to the tape measure tool and the different ways you can use it. I went here at first just from the end point down to the countertop, and we saw that they were at 14 inches. If you were designing this kitchen and you wanted that to sort of be set as a height, we could actually come from the back edge of the countertop up with the tape measure tool and type in 14 inches, and that'll give us a guideline so that when we're actually inserting and placing these cabinets and sizing them in the model, we kind of know, once they're at that point where they're high enough to where they're hitting that target. Well, I think that pretty much brings us to a point where we're about out of time for this episode of the SketchUp Show. Once again, Linda, I want to thank you for your time and for joining us here on today's episode to talk to us about some of the different features and benefits that were taken into consideration when designing this particular kitchen concept.
Thanks, Mike, for having me. I'm glad that I could help out and also learn about SketchUp tools.
All right, well, thanks again, Linda. And that pretty much does it for this episode of the SketchUp Show. As always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to check out the forums on our website, www.go-2-school.com, and we'll see you next time.